Hello everyone. It's been a while since I made a video, but I wanted to get back into it, or at least try to. In order to do that, I figured I should actually make videos about a topic I'm passionate about, which in this case is Catholicism. I've been a Catholic my whole life, and my faith is probably the most important thing in my life. I wouldn't want to be anything else. But one particular area of Catholicism I'm ultra passionate about is church architecture and design. I always like seeing different Catholic churches in different areas, and I think America has a very wide and unique array of church styles throughout the years. And that's what I'm making this video series about, specifically about cathedrals. Now, I'm somewhat active on Catholic Twitter, and I've seen posts and other videos ranking different Catholic churches and even cathedrals in America, but those are usually just top 10 lists or people commenting on what their personal favorite is. I'm gonna one-up all of them. I am ranking every single cathedral in America. Never been done before, at least not to my knowledge. Now, I don't expect this video or series to blow up. I really only expect my friends and maybe a few other people to see it. And since most of them aren't Catholic, I'm going to give a basic explanation of certain terms you might need to know for this. If you want a more in-depth explanation, look it up. So first off, what's a parish? A parish is basically the congregation that gathers in a church. The church is the physical building itself, but the parish is the people that call it home. Now, what is a diocese? That's where there's often a disconnect for those who aren't Catholic. Most people would know where their local Catholic parish is, and of course, we know about the Vatican. Who doesn't know who the Pope is? We know the Pope is in charge of the Catholic Church all over the world and the Vatican, although most of us Catholics just call the Vatican Rome, even though the Vatican and Rome are two separate things. But the Vatican is the headquarters of the Church. But what about a diocese? Well, like most institutions, the church separates itself into different regions called dioceses. And yes, it is dioceses, not diocese. That's not the plural. But a diocese is a group of parishes in a particular area led by a bishop. They are vastly different in size and population, and in America, there are 176 dioceses. Now, there are dioceses and there are archdioceses. What's the difference between them? Realistically, nothing. The archbishop, the leader of an archdiocese, has absolutely zero authority over the bishop of a regular diocese. The bishop has full authority in his own diocese, and it's more or less just a ceremonial title, and it's used to group dioceses together into provinces, which is what I'll be using to separate these videos because I'm not ranking every single cathedral in one single video. An archdiocese is typically a major metropolitan city and was usually the first diocese founded in that area of the country. And over the years it grew and other dioceses were formed from it and then from each other. So at some point that original diocese was elevated to an archdiocese and a province formed. A province is a group of dioceses under an archdiocese, although again the archdiocese doesn't have any actual authority over the others, only Rome does. For example, in New York, there are 8 dioceses in New York State. The Archdiocese of New York City was the original one founded back in the early 1800s, and the others were formed in the years since. Together they form the New York province, or in Pennsylvania, for example. Philadelphia is the archdiocese, so that and the others make up the Philadelphia province. So now, what is a cathedral? It's the mother church of a diocese. And that doesn't mean it was the first parish established or the largest parish in terms of population or building size, and in fact, usually neither of these are true. But there is one thing that makes it the mother church, and that is the bishop's chair in the sanctuary. The bishop's chair is called the cathedra, which is where the word cathedral comes from. The chair is basically a throne that the bishop sits in when he celebrates Mass at the cathedral, and that's what makes the church a cathedral. Other than that, there's really no difference between a cathedral and any other parish church. The cathedral is a regular Catholic parish. A couple more things to know. First, a few dioceses in the US are known as what is called dual city dioceses. That means the diocese has 2 lead cities instead of 1. That also means they have 2 cathedrals, the main cathedral and what's called a co-cathedral, and you'll see an example of this later on in this video. And then there's what's called a basilica. A basilica is a title given to a church by the Pope. The reasons for it vary, but it usually has to do with the church's historic and cultural significance in the area. I don't know what goes into the process of deciding if a church should become a basilica, so you can look that up. But some cathedrals are also basilicas, so I'm just saying this now to clear up any potential confusion. One last thing to mention, I'm only doing Latin or Western dioceses. As much as I love and respect Eastern and Byzantine Catholics, I know very, very little about them, so I won't be covering any of those cathedrals here. Well, with all that said, let's actually rank these now. I figure there's no better province to start than the Baltimore province, considering Baltimore is the first diocese ever in the US, and also this is my home province, so it's the one I know the best. I'll also be including the Archdiocese of Washington, as it's the only standalone archdiocese here. It doesn't have a province of its own, and so I'm including it within the Baltimore province. So let's go. Bet you didn't expect the first cathedral to take us to Wilmington, Delaware, but here we are. I should mention that even though I'm putting it last, the Cathedral of St. Peter isn't ugly. Far from it. It's just that I like the other ones better. But don't worry, I'll let you know when we get to our first genuinely ugly cathedral, because there are some, but it will be a while. This is a cathedral that was dedicated as a cathedral when the diocese was formed, meaning it already existed as a parish church before. A lot of cathedrals in America were built to be the cathedral, replacing an earlier church building, so it's nice to see the original still used as the cathedral here. I particularly like the brickwork on the exterior. You don't really see a brick exterior often for churches, it's usually stone. And the silver steeple top really sticks out, and while you can't see it from this picture, adds to the Wilmington skyline, which is filled with other churches too. As for the inside, I love the ceiling. I always appreciate this type of ceiling with the tiles, and it really adds to the overall aesthetic. For the most part, the inside is relatively simple, and honestly that's all it needs to be. It's not really an overly big or fancy cathedral. The interior is white, and I'm 50-50 on mostly white interiors for churches. As you'll see in other videos, an all-white interior sometimes work, and sometimes it doesn't. This is one of those times where it does work, but again, I really wouldn't call this an all-white interior, as there are all several splashes of color. I'll also point out that the tabernacle is where it's supposed to be, right in the center of the sanctuary. Unfortunately, the reason why St. Peter's is last on this list is because of its size. This is a category where bigger usually does mean better, and this is one of the smallest cathedrals in the country, believe it or not. But it's still a gorgeous church. Well, we have both our first co-cathedral and our first basilica in this video. This is the Basilica of the Co-Cathedral of the Sacred Heart. What a long name. Located in downtown Charleston, West Virginia, this serves as the secondary cathedral for the Diocese of Wheeling-Charleston, with the primary, of course, being located in Wheeling. This one's also on the smaller side, but I think it's a bit better than the last one. I like the twin spires on the front of the church, even though they're not the same height. And I don't know if you can tell, but the side of the church is actually a much newer addition, but it's designed to look like the original body of the church being built out of the same type of stone. What you can't see in this picture is that the cathedral has a beautiful prayer garden across the street, complete with water features. And the interior is really nice too. I love the altarpiece with the gold background and all the statues, and I think the golden images of the four gospel authors on the pulpit's a very nice touch. I also appreciate that the bishop's chair is marble instead of wood. In most cathedrals it is wood, but I just like marble a bit better. Lastly, I think the Bavarian style ceiling is very fitting. It's Appalachian, which makes sense considering that this is in the middle of West Virginia. So this is my home cathedral, as I live in and am part of the Diocese of Arlington. This is our first modern cathedral on the list too, being built in the very early 1960s. Located just outside the Ballston section of Arlington, this cathedral stands atop a hill overlooking a major highway, so everyone driving into Washington can see it. The exterior is designed in an English Tudor style because of its namesake, St. Thomas More, who lived during that time period in England. We also see our first rose window here, which is something a handful of churches have, and I always love them. Interestingly, this one's in the back of the church when they're usually in the front. Now going inside, we'd see it's a lot more modern looking, but you know what? It's a perfect example of a modern church done right. It's hard to tell from this picture, but as someone who's been here multiple times, I can tell you the inside has a sort of blue-like hue to it. Like the air itself is sort of blue. It just works. Along the walls are life-size full-color statues of various saints connected to the diocese and elsewhere, and the Tudor style comes back in the sanctuary with the wooden walls in the back, as well as a white tabernacle instead of gold. And interestingly, the choir loft is above the sanctuary rather than in the back of the church where it would usually be. Now the thing is, this is all very recent, as the cathedral underwent a massive renovation last year. This is what the interior looks like before. Not completely different, but definitely needed to be improved, especially since the bishop's chair was in the center of the sanctuary where the tabernacle is now. And this is the exterior pre-renovation. Yeah, the original exterior here definitely looks to be from its time, built in the 60s. And yeah, all in all, the renovation was needed, but I am proud to call this my home cathedral. Back to West Virginia we go, this time to the Northern Panhandle in Wheeling, to talk about the primary cathedral. Located right in the middle of downtown Wheeling, the Cathedral of St. Joseph is the first genuinely larger cathedral on this list, at least larger than the previous ones. As you can see, this is also the first cathedral with a dome. I absolutely love domed churches, and if your cathedral has a dome, chances are I'm ranking it pretty high. This is also the first truly Roman-style cathedral here, which is my second favorite architectural style. We'll get to my favorite later. Once again, I like the twin spires in the front, and as you can see, we have our first proper rose window located in the front of the church, this one being much bigger than the previous. The wooden doors were also recently redone and look amazing. The roof is made of stucco, which you don't see too often in this part of the country. And of course, the inside is superior to the outside. First, look at the art in the sanctuary. That giant painting of Jesus is actually a mosaic, which you can imagine how long it took to create that. Second, the roof over the tabernacle is called a portico, which I very much appreciate. That's another way to get me to like a church if it has a portico. The columns really show that this is unmistakably Roman Catholic, and the sanctuary murals go all the way up into the dome. The altar itself is a beautiful white marble, and the bishop's chair here actually looks like a legitimate throne. I haven't been here yet, but this is at the top of my list for cathedrals to visit. This is another one I've been to, and let me tell you, the pictures don't do it justice. Located in downtown Richmond, right on a big college campus, the Cathedral of the Sacred Heart is another Roman-style cathedral, only this one is a bit better than the last one. See, I think the entrance is the best part of the exterior here, especially with the massive pillars, and of course it has a dome. And the twin spires on this one are much taller than the ones we've seen so far. Now the inside is truly something to behold. While it doesn't have incredible mural art like the previous one, I think the overall color scheme and beauty of the church itself here is better. It almost looks more Greek than Roman. Plus, as I said, bigger usually means better here, and this is the biggest cathedral on this list so far. Now, my only complaint is how plain the sanctuary is. There's no real decoration, it's just the chairs, the pulpit, the altar, and the tabernacle. That's it. It would look a lot better with a proper high altar and statues, but as it is, there's not much there. If there was more, I probably would have put it at least one spot higher. But even so, I still really love this cathedral. It actually served as inspiration for the Cathedral of St. Joseph in Wheeling, which isn't surprising. A lot of these cathedrals in the Mid-Atlantic were built in the early 1900s, so some of them served as inspiration for others. And fun fact, when I went to Mass there, it just so happened to be the installation Mass for the new pastor, so the bishop was there and I got to meet him. Our first archdiocese. As I said in the beginning, I'm including the Archdiocese of Washington in the Baltimore province because it has no province of its own. This is another cathedral I've been to a lot. I think this is the one I've been to the most, actually. Located right in the middle of downtown DC, this is, in my opinion, the best domed cathedral in the Mid-Atlantic. Now, from the outside, it actually looks a lot more plain compared to the last two. There's no Roman pillars, and it's painted in a dark brown color, which isn't exactly the most appealing. It doesn't even look that big from the outside, but as we know, it's what's on the inside that counts. From the very moment you enter, your eyes are drawn up to the sanctuary. The mosaic of St. Matthew on the wall rivals the one in Wheeling's Cathedral. The actual marble altar is massive and prominent, and look at that pulpit. It is easily the largest one yet, requiring several steps to climb up it. It was designed like this because in 1913, when the cathedral was built, churches didn't have microphones, obviously, so pulpits were usually higher up so that the priest's voice would be heard throughout the whole building. And for a large church, you'd need a high pulpit. Sadly, they don't use it anymore, but it would be nice if they did. The cathedral's unmistakably Roman with the columns and balconies, but also there is a notable Greek influence there as well. The side chapels are incredible, with one of them having my all-time favorite statue of Mary. It depicts her reaching down as if to grab a hold of you and pull you up to heaven with her. The church is a bit dark too, which I always like, and it's one of the only carpeted cathedrals in America. The floor is a red carpet instead of marble or tile, like which most cathedrals are. If your church has a carpet and it has a dome, it is automatically amazing. But interestingly, it doesn't have a choir loft, as the massive pipe organ is located off to the right of the sanctuary. And while the tabernacle isn't on the main altar, it does have its own prominent side chapel, so this is a case where I will accept that. The cathedral still looks exactly like the time period it was built in. It honestly has not been renovated that much since it was built in the early 1900s. And fun fact, the bishop's chair actually has the first Archbishop of Washington's crest permanently carved into it. Usually the bishop's chair has the crest of, the actual current bishop. And also, fun fact, this is my friend's favorite cathedral, and it is almost mine, but there is one better. If you are at all familiar with this cathedral, you'd have guessed it'd be number one. Yes, the Archdiocese of Baltimore does in fact have the best cathedral in the Baltimore province. Located in a very wealthy area of North Baltimore called Homeland, the Cathedral of Mary Queen is one of the largest cathedrals in the country. And not only is it another one I've been to multiple times, it's my former home cathedral. I was born and grew up in the Archdiocese of Baltimore before I moved to the Diocese of Arlington, so I still consider this my second home cathedral. You may be surprised that this cathedral is so high considering it's technically sort of modern, as it was built in 1959, which is recent in church history, but it's at the top of the list for mainly one reason: its architectural style. Art Deco. Yes, Art Deco is my favorite church style. I know I just pissed off a ton of people saying that, but I don't care. You may think a building style from the first half of the 1900s and a Catholic church won't mix. To that I say, look at this cathedral. It is the best example of a church done in Art Deco style. The outside is already breathtaking. If you're driving up Charles Street in Baltimore, you literally can't miss it. It is that massive. The many statues along the towers and just its sheer height give it an almost intimidating atmosphere, which I genuinely love. And if you look at it from the side, it just seems to stretch back and back and back. And then you walk inside and just, wow. First of all, like the one in Arlington, the air itself seems to be blue, and this is a result of the blue floors and walls as well as the stained glass windows, only this time it's much more noticeable. The pillars are massive and lead up to a beautifully painted ceiling. Along the walls are stone carvings depicting not only the Stations of the Cross, but various events in the Gospels. There are multiple side chapels dedicated to various saints, and then finally you reach the main sanctuary. The portico is absolutely massive and towers over the altar, complete with a huge crucifix behind it. The pulpit is prominent and has a roof of its own, and the Archbishop's chair is beautifully carved out of wood. Like St. Matthew's in Washington, the tabernacle has its own chapel, but this one is located directly behind the main sanctuary, and the altar in that chapel is, I think, made out of solid gold, although I'm not entirely sure on that. I know this cathedral actually gets mixed reactions from some people. I'm sorry, but I absolutely adore it. It is the textbook example as to why Art Deco is objectively the best architectural style for an American cathedral. It's unique to us. You wouldn't find a Catholic church in this style in too many other places around the world. If you were to visit one of the cathedrals in this video, I'd recommend this one the most. It is a behemoth of a cathedral, and I genuinely can't think of a single thing wrong with it. It's that rare moment where the church design is absolutely 100% perfect. And as one last added bonus, Pope St. John Paul II visited the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen, as well as St. Matthew's Cathedral in Washington, and both of them have a plaque commemorating this. So yeah, that was a lot to get through, but I hope you enjoyed it. I don't have a set schedule for when these videos will come out, but I'm going to try to shoot for one every other week for now. But if this picks up steam, I'll switch to weekly. This isn't what I usually do. I don't usually make videos at all, but it's something I'm passionate about, and I had fun writing this. Like if you want, share if you want, subscribe if you want, it doesn't really matter much to me. Next time it'll be the Pennsylvania Cathedral, so stay tuned. Alright, I'll see you later.